Welcome to the Core Confidence Life Personal Development Podcast for Men here on Core Confidence Life TV. I am your host, Dennis, broadcasting right here in New York City in the beautiful Core Confidence Life studios. Beautiful. Just look at the beauty. All right. If you want to subscribe to this channel, we would like you to just hit the subscribe button if it's your first time here and you haven't done so yet. Don't forget to catch our audio podcast, which sometimes, in fact, a lot of times, has different interviews, right? So you can find that on iTunes and Spotify, or just look in the description for this video. We also have a personal development, core confidence life men's discussion group. That link is also in the description for this video. All right, on today's program, have you ever wanted to be an entertainer? Someone who wants to stand up on stage and perform for a crowd, but you just don't have the courage to do it. You don't want to be on stage. You don't have the courage or confidence to do so. And on today's program, we're going to talk to somebody who will help you gain that courage and confidence. Rob Temple is a stage hypnotist, and so he gets on stage, he gets somebody to volunteer to be hypnotized on stage and have them embody somebody different. But he wasn't always this confident to stand in front of thousands of people and do such a thing. So he's going to talk to us about his career, but more so, talk to us about how he started out. How did he gain the confidence to stand on stage? What are those ingredients for someone to be able to stand in public and do their performance the way they want to? And so we're going to turn to Rob Temple to talk about the essence of core confidence for those who want to be an entertainer, or for the average person just looking to communicate better with people, to talk to that girl, to go for that job interview. It all is the same ingredients, and Rob Temple has the recipe. Core Confidence Life. Okay, we are back on the program, and we are talking to a stage hypnotist. That's right, not a hypnotherapist, but a stage hypnotist, Rob Temple. And what's going on, Rob?
Oh, nothing, because we're in lockdown at the time of recording this, so nothing is going on, but I'm good, man. It's really good to be here.
It's good to have you on the program. So you are a stage hypnotist. What is a stage hypnotist? What does that mean?
So basically, it means that I have been, I suppose, lucky enough for the last 17, nearly 18 years to get to travel all over the world and and hypnotize people in a stage show. So literally, we get people on stage, they volunteer to take part, they get hypnotized, and then we make them do crazy things to explore their imagination, effectively let go of all of their inhibitions that would normally hold them back. And suddenly they can become pop stars, they can become, sports stars, international celebrities, aliens from another planet, anything that their imagination can come up with, live on stage for 2 hours, and then we wake them up and send them back to the audience to watch the videos and the photographs of everything that they've been doing for the last 2 hours. So that's what I do.
Okay, so what is the purpose or benefit of someone participating in a stage hypnotic state?
It's really funny because there's really two different camps of people. There's a whole group of people who say, I would never, ever dare to get hypnotized in a stage show. And then there's a whole other bunch of people who want to do it because they want to experience the inner depths of their imagination and the ability to relax. So hypnosis is definitely one of the most relaxing things it's possible to do. Like, even though during a stage show, somebody might be leaping around the stage as, a pop star or something, when you're actually hypnotized, it's so incredibly relaxing. And it takes you to a place where you really don't ever get to go. Like, even if you have the best sleep ever, it's nothing compared to being hypnotized for an hour or two. So there's that, but also the chance for people to really let loose. I've seen some of the most shy, quiet, retiring individuals turn into the life and soul of the party once they're hypnotized and given the right suggestion to like leap around the stage, like I said. And you would think they were, I mean, not very good, but you would think they were professional entertainers, you know, because they just really come to life with all of the confidence. Because if you were Madonna or if you were Elvis Presley, why wouldn't you have that much confidence when you get on stage? So yeah, it's a really interesting thing to watch.
So this thing helps people embody somebody differently. Does that benefit them internally? Does it help lift their confidence? What does it do for them, like in the long term?
So generally speaking, people come out of it having experienced something they'll never forget. It's a little bit like if somebody does a bungee jump or if somebody does, you know, something crazy like that. It's a different thing. Like that's for exhilaration and drive. But like I think people coming out of a stage hypnosis show really, after taking part, really feel like they've unlocked a different part of themselves they didn't know was there, or maybe they thought might be there, but they needed some sort of confirmation of that. I think it's one of the reasons I've seen loads of people who get hypnotized once in a show and then they do it every time. So like sometimes I have to send people back to their seats and say, look, I can't have you back on stage again because people are going to think like you're an actor, like touring with me on the show or something, because people just want to experience that again. So I think the first thing is once you've been hypnotized, it's much easier to be hypnotized again in future, which means that it's much easier, even from the comfort of your own home, for you to tap into a really, truly, deeply relaxed state. So that's really good. Like it trains your brain to be able to switch off and completely disconnect from all of the stresses and everything that's going on. But also the fact that it allows you to show what's really possible if you like plug in the strongest level of confidence, even though whilst hypnotized, it's sort of like, I guess it's kind of like a fake confidence, like it comes with them thinking they are somebody else, but it allows you to plug in and show what you can physically do if you're given the right stimulus and if you're given the right level of confidence.
You know, I'm listening to this and I'm thinking about somebody being hypnotized. Let's say they are hypnotized to become Elvis Presley or hypnotized to become somebody else. And really what this shows me is really a statement about mind frame. So when you're hypnotized, you're changing mind frames. And to me, it's like, well, you could change mind frames without being hypnotized as well. And it can unlock the confidence that's within you. You can manifest confidence through another identity than yourself. If you just kind of step into being that other identity, it would unlock different features inside of you.
Yeah, one of the things I've discovered over time is quite often, like after a show, somebody will come up to me in the bar or wherever, and they'll say, "Oh, could you know, I didn't want to take part on stage, but like now I've seen it. Now I'd like to be hypnotized. Could you hypnotize me now?" And the answer is always no, because in that circumstance, in that environment, it's a little bit kind of irresponsible and whatnot. But I realized over time that I can start to take some of the techniques and apply them there without hypnotizing them. So it's what has become known as like waking hypnosis. It's basically using the power of suggestion to like make them like not be able to move or stick their hand to a table or just demonstrate something basically. And what we realized is that there's actually so much that you can do just by using the power of suggestion alone without having to actually have somebody, you know, collapse to sleep with their eyes closed in a truly like sleeping position or slumped forward. Just by using the power of suggestion and small imagination kind of exercises and that kind of thing, you can actually create really powerful changes very briefly in a short period of time to demonstrate that. And like with anything to do with reprogramming your mind or changing your thought processes or your beliefs or any of the stuff that I've become really passionate about through this, it takes a bit of time. It's not a quick fix. You know, like if you use an affirmation and you say, you know, I'm a great money manager, you're not going to be a millionaire by tomorrow. That's fine. It's just about slowly reprogramming your brain and your thought processes to think slightly differently. So the knock-on effect that can have on a life is huge.
All right. So during these sessions, you get people who are become supremely confident, who are relaxed and things like that. And so you're on stage in front of everyone. So what made you interested in this type of thing? And what's been your own journey with confidence? Were you a confident kid? Were you up on stage as a kid doing this, or like where did you start out from?
Now that is a story. Weirdly, very, very strangely, I got into this. I can't remember a time where I didn't want to be an entertainer, but that comes with its own problems. When I was about 4, I went to a children's birthday party and they had a magician, like a kid's magician. And I loved it. But I was a really shy, terrified child. I remember even at my own birthday parties, my parents would get me a magician because they knew how much I liked it. But like when the magician gets the birthday kid up to like help do the tricks, I was so scared I wouldn't get up unless one of my friends came up with me. So like that's how terrified I was. And I was the kid who would like hide and cower behind my mum's leg if somebody came to the front door. But when I saw this magician, I was just captivated by it. And I thought, that's amazing. I want to learn magic. So my parents bought me a magic set and I like learned some of the tricks, and that gave me like something to hide behind. So that gave me something to do. It gave me something to like wrap myself in, like bubble wrap, so that when like our family members would come round, like my auntie and uncle or the next door neighbors, I would like instantly jump out with these cards or these cups and like do tricks. And when I had those in my hand, I was like a different person. It was like I could step into a character all of a sudden. And then it all came to a head when I was about 10. I got asked to do a magic show for a group of, we call them brownies in the UK. It's like the Girl Guides, but younger. So they're like girls about the same age as me, like 9 or 10. And there was like 30 of them in a room. And I got asked to go and do this little magic show. And I'd set it all up and they came in and they sat down. It was being run by my stepmom's friend. And I got to do the thing and I picked up the tricks, like ready to perform, and suddenly froze. I couldn't speak. I was just frozen to the spot. And I had to like just demonstrate. All I can describe it as is like I demonstrated the tricks silently, and my stepmom stood next to me and she did all of the words and all of the talking to like go along with the tricks. And at the end of it, I thought, I mean, I remember this, and I was only 9 or 10, but I remember thinking, I can't be an entertainer. Like the one thing I want to do, the one thing I've spent the last 5 or 6 years figuring out that I wanted to do as a child, which is a weird thing to be that sure about what you want to do when you're that young. I can't do it. I can't perform because I physically can't get up and do it. So I realized in front of like 2 people, like my aunt and my uncle, showing them one little magic trick, I was fine. But the minute you gave me an audience of like 30 people, I was frozen to the spot. And I think that without me realizing it, that started a journey of, okay, I have to figure out how to get confidence to actually do this, to actually talk to people, to actually be able to present this stuff. And so we can talk about how that happened, but for sure, over the next few years, between the age of like 9 and 15, I just did everything possible to say, okay, great, how can I be the best possible performer on stage? Because the one thing that I want to do with my life depends on me making this work. If I can't make this work, then everything I've thought of throughout my life so far, my relatively young life, admittedly at the time, isn't going to work.
You know, there's very interesting subtopics you're bringing up there. Thanks for that story. I was thinking as you were talking about, you know, what kinds of goals do people have that they would like to achieve that they don't have the confidence yet to achieve? And I was thinking about my own background and the things I wanted to do. And well, if I wanted to be a public speaker, if I wanted to be a men's coach, if I wanted to be a public figure dealing with tough, hard issues, I need to become confident in myself. I need to not give a shit who thinks what about me. And so how can I build those things up? How can I build those resilient qualities up to be able to achieve my goals? And it sounds like for you, that's the same situation. You wanted to be on stage, a magician and everything. But how do you become confident? How do you get rid of the shyness, the insecurities to follow those goals? And so take us through that. How did you build up confidence to get your goals? I think a lot of people have gone through the same thing. I want to be this, but I need to build up certain characteristics or certain resilience levels to be this. How'd you do it?
Yeah. So the first thing that you have to do is you have to, and there's a few lessons that can be taken from my journey of being an entertainer that will apply to, like you say, to anything somebody wants to do. And the first thing you want to do is to realize that for me, confidence comes from 2 things. It comes from evidence and it comes from reps. So like reps, like in the gym, like, you know, lifting weights and stuff. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to get evidence that the thing you do is okay. Now, when you're not very confident, and you lack the confidence to take the steps that you need to take, then what you actually need to get isn't confidence, it's courage. So courage is what you need to take a step into the unknown and to take a step towards having a go at something, even though you don't feel confident in your ability to do it, or that you don't feel confident that other people will respect you for it, or you don't feel confident that other people will like it when you do, right? So what that means is that you have to find the courage from somewhere in order to take a step forward. And the easiest way to find courage is to figure out what is the small micro version of the thing that I ultimately want to do that is far less scary. So for me, as wanting to be a magician at the time, obviously eventually that moved into hypnosis, but wanting to be a magician as a kid, that was, okay, great. I now know that when I stand in front of 30 kids and try and do a show, I go to jelly and can't do it. But if I could find one person or two people and I could do a close-up magic trick with just a pack of cards, and I could do that for two people, that's not so scary. That's the scaled down version of what I wanted to do. Going in front of an audience, terrifying, but just one or two people, I'm okay with that. So that allows me to have the courage to like take a step forward rather than having a running jump at the thing you want to do. And I think that's the first step, is to find what is the small thing that allows me to go and do it. And then when you go and do that thing and it goes well, so like you show a person a trick and they liked it, or you do the small version of whatever your big goal is, you now have some evidence that to your belief system that, okay, this is good. Because all beliefs are formed from evidence. In fact, it's not just confidence. All beliefs come from evidence. We believe stuff because we see something that makes it true or makes it appear to be true. It's why there's so many, whether you believe them or not, there's so many conspiracy theories going around the world about who's behind what and the big Illuminati and all that stuff. It's because somewhere someone's found some evidence and that backs up their belief system that this conspiracy thing's going on. So what you want to do is find the thing that allows you to build up that bit of evidence, find that small thing. So for me, that was like showing a person a card trick. And then the next step is, okay, great. If I can do that and I can show one person a trick, okay, could I show two people a trick at the same time? So now you get two people around, and maybe those are people that I knew, so like my relatives. But then the next step is to say, okay, great. Now I'm going to show a stranger. So maybe we're at a family wedding or a party or something, and my uncle says, hey, come here. This is my friend Dave. Show Dave the trick. And his wife Carol comes over. And now I'm going to have to show these two complete strangers a trick. Well, now that's the next step up, because that's a little bit less comforting than people who I already know, like my family or family friends or whatever. Now this is people I've never met before. And so again, you now need a bit more courage, but you don't need, it's not like you need more courage. You need the same amount of courage. You're just starting from the next step up the ladder. Imagine being stood on a ladder and being frightened of heights. Well, you need some courage to take like 2 steps up. But once you get comfortable with being 2 steps up the step ladder, you now don't need, it's not like you need twice as much confidence to go 2 steps higher, because you're now confident. You now need the same amount of courage to go another 2 steps. It's just you started from 2 steps higher. And so what I found is that if you take that analogy and apply it to anything you want to do in your life, you can say, okay, great. Well, now I can now comfortably do a trick for like a group of 6 people I've never met before. This is awesome. That's like being halfway up the ladder. So now that's given me a load of evidence to build it up. Now, the other thing that this does, because you're constantly like taking a couple more steps up the ladder, is you get to build more reps. So you get to do it more often. Because if you do something once and it goes well, that could be a fluke. Maybe they were just nice people. Maybe they went away afterwards and they said, oh, well, he's a nice kid, but that was rubbish. But like, if you do it loads, that builds up more and more reps. And of course, reps of anything make you stronger. And so that makes your confidence stronger. And it's just about building up over a period of time. And if you do that, if you take the thing you ultimately want to do and you break it down to what's the small version, then you find the little bit of courage that you need in order to do it. And that's not too hard to do, because you're doing the really scaled down, stripped back version. And then slowly build that over time. You very quickly start to build evidence, and you very quickly start to build reps, and the evidence and the reps go together to create the confidence to be able to do anything you want. And now the odd thing is that I'm more confident on stage in front of 1,000 people than I am in front of a small group of 2 or 3 people at like a networking meeting or a party or something like that. I find conversation in real life much harder than being on stage in front of 1,000 people, because I've focused so heavily on how do I get it to the point where I can do that thing.
I think that's great Great story there. And I like the focus on courage because, we hear a lot about confidence and, you got to have confidence and low self-esteem and things like that. But you are including courage in that confidence, as I say, confidence does come from action. And as you say, evidence. And so getting the courage, even before you have the confidence, is also a very important step. And also moving up incrementally is also a very important step. Hey, you do it in front of 2 people. Oh, I did. That's great. Now I do it in front of 4 people, and then 6, and then 12, and then 2,000. And so I think that's excellent. And of course, everything improves with reps. So how long did it take for you to feel really, really confident in front of people? How long did the evidence rep combo take for you to feel really boost your confidence?
I would say, obviously, the factor to bring into this is how often you get the chance to get those reps in. So like if you only do something once a year, it's going to take something 10 times longer than if you do it 10 times a year. I would say that it probably took me a good 4 or 5 years growing up to like really get to a point where I was confident on stage, and I don't get stage fright anymore. And I just feel totally fine and ready to do it. Like I said, more comfortable on stage than off. And I think that was with a fair amount of reps. I mean, I was at school at the time, so I was spending more time in school than I was on stage and stuff. But I think that can be sped up by a couple of things. It can be sped up in most areas of life because as an entertainer with the best will in the world, you only get so much opportunity to do it. Like you can't be doing it all the time. Whereas if what you're looking for is confidence in, I don't know, chatting to girls and women, maybe or guys, maybe your confidence is lacking somewhere else in your self-belief and in your ability to be a good conversationalist and your ability to grow a business, like those things, you can be doing those loads of the time. Like you can build that much faster. So I think I was probably slightly held back by how fast you're actually able to get reps in and build evidence as an entertainer. Like you can't just be doing magic tricks all the time. Whereas if it's to do with other things, like, so other areas of my life where I've always struggled is things like conversation. I remember like I was the guy who like conversation would dry up quite fast. So like I'd rely on the other person having the next thing in the conversation. Whereas now, as you can probably tell, I talk a lot. And I think part of that again came from the fact that I could do that every day. I could do that at school. I could do that in family situations. I could do that in the shop. I could do that. Things like, getting the courage to be the guy who gets into an elevator where there's somebody else already there and pay them a compliment and start a conversation. Hey, I love your shoes. Where did you get them from? Or I love that dress, or whatever it's going to be. Again, a little bit of courage because that's stepping well and truly outside of a comfort zone for somebody who's not really very socially confident. But again, you can do that all the time. And if you dedicate your life to doing that, not taking over your life because everyone's got work or business or whatever, but if you dedicate all of your moving, waking hours to, okay, great, how can I build my social confidence? How can I build my confidence and belief in myself? How can I improve my confidence in relationships and dating? How can I improve all these different areas? Then of course that massively, massively helps. And you can grow that kind of confidence quicker. Plus, I think it all compounds together. I think this is it's not that compartmentalized stuff where you grow confidence in your ability to do a thing will also grow your ability to talk to people in a relationship sense, and dating will also grow your confidence in negotiating in business or going to a job interview. This stuff definitely impacts it's other things. And there's definitely stuff that I've learned from being on stage that I've been able to drag into what we'll call the real world, the everyday world, as a result of that as well.
That's a lot of stuff, and that's great stuff. Courage. I like the whole. So I have a couple questions here. I don't know what order to ask them in. Eeny, meeny, miny, mouse. All right. So what's the metadata behind courage? So how do you gain courage? How do you gain the oomph to just go out there and do it without thinking? Like maybe that sounds like a odd question, but I like to know the metadata behind that. What goes into courage?
One of the weird things that I think lots of people do is they create evidence against doing something from absolutely nowhere whatsoever. So for example, if somebody wants to be, I don't know, a singer or something, we'll just stick with the entertainment industry because that's easy for me to reference, but it applies to everything. If you want to be a singer or something and you don't believe that you're good enough to like make it, like you think, okay, I can sing in the shower or when I'm getting ready, but nobody's ever going to pay to see me, or nobody's going to ever hire me to go and sing for their event or whatever, then you've got to figure out, okay, great, great. Where did that evidence come from? Because what happens is we are so good at creating evidence that holds us back and ignoring any evidence that could be out there. So we've talked about the evidence already that pushes us forward and the evidence that helps us build confidence. But first, in order to do that, you really have to get rid of this made up evidence that says you can't do something. So a lot of the time, the things that are holding you back from having the courage are limiting beliefs that I can't do that. Nobody will like it. I won't be able to do it. That kind of thing. I'm not good enough. And a lot of the time you have to say, okay, great, but where did I get that belief from? And what's the evidence supporting it? And most of the time you'll find there isn't any. We're really good at inventing evidence that we can't do something because that's just easier to do. It's always easier to say no than it is to say yes. And it's always easier to stand still than it is to step forward. So I think what we need to be able to do is to find the evidence instead, or look for the evidence that says we can't do something. You'll very quickly find that there really isn't any, or if there is, it's nonsense. Like there's no good evidence. So for example, if you go on America's Got Talent and Simon Cowell says you're the worst singer in the world and you should never do this, that's some pretty good evidence that you maybe shouldn't go down this route because it's got some validation to it. It's still not like perfect because everyone's got different tastes and things they like and things they don't, but at least it's got some weight to it. It's got some gravitas to it. But most of the people are not going to get into that position where you've got like the one, like the god of that industry can tell you that you can or can't do something. And until you do, you have no evidence. You have no evidence and you have no right to make up evidence to say that you can't do something. Yeah, you just don't. So one of the big things towards getting courage is looking at the reasons why you don't feel like you've got the courage to step forward. And remember, you're only taking a small step forward. I'm not asking you to jump in at the deep end. You're going to climb in very slowly at the shallow end first and get used to how cold the water is. And then you're going to dunk down and you're going to get even more used to how cold the water is and make sure you can float first. Okay, great. And then you're going to slowly swim forward. You're not going to get in at the deep end. So you don't need a lot of courage, just need a little bit of courage. And that again comes from removing the evidence that says you can't. It's removing the evidence that says it might not work. It's removing the evidence that says you're not good enough or people like you shouldn't do this kind of thing. And again, that all comes from just assessing the situation objectively. What we're really good at is taking our thoughts and our beliefs and taking them on absolute face value. So I think I'm not good enough and therefore I'm not, but without any analysis at all. What we really need to do when we have thoughts like that is to look at them with the same level of cynicism and the same level of skepticism as we would if we were being like sold something. Like if you're walking down the street and some really grubby, slimy salesperson comes over to try and sell you like new windows or something that you don't want, like you would be very skeptical about everything that person says. When they say that it's a special offer and it's today only, you'd say, well, is it though? Or are you going to be here tomorrow as well? You'd be very skeptical about everything they say. And you sort of need to do that when you have your own negative beliefs. When you have something pop into your mind like nobody wants to see me do that, or nobody would pay me to do this, or nobody would give me that job, you have to sit back and say, okay, but why do I feel like that? Is that just my belief from my frame of reference, from my view of myself and the world? And a lot of the time, almost all of the time, you'll find that it is. And actually, if you go out and you try and find evidence to the contrary of that, then that will give you that little bit of courage that you need. I think for me, that's the biggest bit that goes into just finding that courage. Is it's not about finding the courage. It's actually about removing the blocks that are holding you back from taking that step.
That's excellent. Excellent stuff. Question your negative beliefs. That's something I say all the time. Question your negative beliefs. Just because you think it doesn't make it true. And if you think it, you just question it. Don't just believe everything you hear. And that includes in your own head. And I will add to this, the example you gave about Simon Cowell telling you can't sing, so that's good evidence. I would say just because I'm, just in the music business, if you already know, there are plenty of big stars now that were told just that. You can't sing. This is not what people are buying. You're too big. These songs are no good. Some of the biggest singers today were told that very same thing. Some of the biggest singers today were fired by record companies and rejected by everyone you can think of in the beginning of their career. And they just kept going. They didn't take no for an answer. And so even if the supposed biggest guru of that industry tells you to go take a hike, well, then you take a hike to the next opportunity.
So true. So true. And the same thing applies to like authors. Like you hear about like J.K. Rowling obviously sent Harry Potter to like dozens of publishing houses and they all said no before what somebody gave it a chance. And now it blew up to be what it is, you know? I think you've got to realize that taste and everything, you can't please all the people all of the time. And therefore, if you try, that is just going to lead to you being unhappy.
Yeah, that's right. And when you said a thing about the authors, I thought about just even songs. Like there's songs that, you know, if I gave you the song, oh, I don't like that song. That song's stupid. It's too explicit. It's too whatever. Oh, I give it to the next singer and it's a big #1 hit. So
Right.
you turned it down. That doesn't mean the song is no good. It just means that maybe it doesn't fit you or it doesn't fit what you like, but it still became a big hit for somebody else. So don't take no for an answer, even if you're the one giving yourself no's.
Definitely. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. So then, what do you see for yourself in the future in this on stage hypnotist?
So I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. As I said, at the time of recording this, we're in lockdown and can't perform. But from next year onwards, when the pandemic seems to have gone away and we're all good, I'll be back on stage and touring again, hopefully next September, if everything's back to normal by then. And yeah, that's the plan. Just growing it, you know. I'd love to take the tour more internationally. Like I've performed at events internationally for sure, but now it's time to take my actual theatre show and take that internationally to the States and things like that. That's going to be lots of fun. Probably 5 or 10 years away before we get to that. We need to nail it in the UK first. But yeah, just continue to do what I'm doing. I found a life that is really balanced. It has all of the right stuff in it, in the right quantities. I feel like I spend the right amount of time doing the things I really want to do. So that's really cool. I have my own personal development podcast, Success Unlocked, as well. So I'm really enjoying recording that and sharing more of these kind of thoughts and views. So yeah, I think do what I'm currently doing, but just amplify it in every area. And I think once you get to a point where you feel like everything is where you want it to be, then you can just amplify it. And that's one of the best forms of growth.
All right. Speaking of that, tell us more about your podcast. Tell us more about where we can find out more about you, your shows, your podcast, all the things that you do.
Yeah, awesome. So the podcast is called Success Unlocked. You can obviously find it on all of the favorite podcast players, or if you go to successunlocked.com, you can see it there. And I've also got a little toolkit of free resources that I put together for listeners if they want to grab that. It's got things like affirmations and worksheets to help you beat limiting beliefs and control your level of happiness and all sorts of stuff. Kind of the 6 core areas of what I think makes a really rounded, confident life. You can go and grab that. Just go to successunlocked.com/core, as in core confidence life. That's successunlocked.com/core. And you'll be able to download that and find out more about the podcast and all of that stuff.
Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. So aside from the things that we spoke about today, what can you tell somebody that they can do right now to become more confident, more courageous, more successful, whatever it might be?
One of the things I think you should really do is to sit down with the people that know you the best, your friends and your family, and sit down with a piece of paper and start to look at your view of yourself and the things that you can and the things that you can't do. Those kind of negative beliefs and those powerful beliefs as well. The things you think you are good at are just as powerful as the things you think you aren't. And sit down with a piece of paper, maybe put it into 2 columns, make a list of the things that you feel like you're really good at, make a list of the things that you feel like you're not good at and you'll never be able to achieve. And then sit down with one-on-one with a family friend, a friend, a member, something like that, and sit down with one of those people, then take a break, then another one, then take a break, and then another one, and really just sit and analyze those and say, what's the evidence that I have for that? And a lot of the time you'll find that person, that other person you're sat with, will say, no, because do you remember when you were younger and you did that thing? Do you remember what that person said to you after you'd done that? That was amazing. And other people are really, really good at helping us find the evidence that we need to move forward when we can't do it. And the reason is we are naturally, as humans, much better at coaching other people than we are at coaching ourselves. And so one of the things I would encourage everybody to learn to do is to learn how to coach yourself through these processes. And one of the quickest ways to do that is to bring in somebody else to help be that coaching type role. And you'll very quickly start to adopt that way of thinking about your own life as well.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Mr. Temple, thank you for coming on the program and talking to us about your journey and all the, what I call metadata behind your success. And I appreciate that. And your podcast too. How long have you had your podcast?
It's very new. At the minute, we're currently on 19 episodes. And it comes out every week. One week it's me, and then the next week it's an interview with somebody. Then the next week it's me, and so on and so forth.
Well, we were all new before we were old. So
totally. Thanks for having me, man. This has been a blast.
Oh, thank you very much for coming on the program, sir. And keep courageous and keep confident, right? If you'd like to be a guest on the Core Confidence Life podcast, just fill out our application by going to coreconfidencelife.com/guest. That's coreconfidencelife.com/guest. We appreciate you and all your feedback. So to give us comments about the podcast or anything else, just send a message to Dennis at coreconfidencelife.com. That's Dennis at coreconfidencelife.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and all the social media outlets, of course, at Core Confidence Life. I'm your host, Dennis, from New York City, giving you higher consciousness, lower stress, hard-hitting manhood issues with just a side of cornball humor.